Hello, this is Chris and Jakub from PagePro, and today we're going to speak about Next.js and React.js, and we're going to discuss different aspects of those technologies to help CTOs and technical leaders to choose best technology for the next project. Okay, so let's get started. Jakub, can you provide some brief overview of those two technologies?
Yes, sure. So React is a JavaScript library that helps you build user interfaces. It's focusing on like reusability of components and helping you build your application with small chunks and then just build like a Lego. When Next.js is a framework that allows you to build full applications, more like production grade applications. It's also using React underneath for the components part. So like the biggest difference between those two is like the library versus framework. So depends on your requirements for your project.
Okay, great. So framework is something that contains multiple libraries and is opinionated. So it has some specific structure, and library is just one small part of the structure. Is that
Exactly.
correct?
So like a library, you can use let's say React and Angular for the UI part or Vue.js or something like that. But it has to be used in a bigger application where you serve your HTML, etc. And Next.js is something that helps you build like full products, full applications that has their own routing and own systems. So library is something that you use in a bigger application, and framework is something that works by itself.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Great. So we know the main differences between React and Next.js. So now let's go to some use cases to explain that on some examples. So for me, React is mainly in use for some uh, internal applications, the applications that you don't need to have, good SEO, or this application is not visible to people outside of the company. And Next.js is focused on SEO, on performance and stuff like that. So that's my impression of those technologies. And in last years, we were building more Next.js applications than React applications, but we're building web portals, content websites, or projects that have multiple areas. So, for example, admin area, customer area. Please describe the main use cases of both technologies.
Yeah, so as you mentioned for React, a good use cases are your internal applications where you don't need any extra layers of complexity of like authorization rules or something like that. Or you have projects with existing APIs which works on like a single page and has like a single dashboard or very small functionality that you can like build within a small application. Or you can like create prototypes or MVPs, but also like small ones. I wouldn't use it for a bigger application. We used to do it like 8 years ago or something like that, where you were building very complex applications within a SPA, single page application attitude. So you were building like multiple pages that were handled by your JavaScript code, not by the browser routing itself. And also a good use case, in my opinion, the best one is like if you want a single widget on your web application. For example, if you have a application that has like a button, and if you click this button, something opens up like chatbots or something like that. It's a great use case to use React, only React without the Next.js. So like a small parts of applications, then it's a great use case.
I guess good
For
example
Next.js,
is also our ticketing system. So you have a widget, and you can pick the date and event and buy ticket for this event. And yes, you don't need this part of the website to be indexed by Google, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you have a working application, and you just need to add some feature
Add-on.
to it, like an add-on. Yeah,
Yes.
then it's a good use case.
Okay.
For Next.js, it's everything that is more complex than the things that I mentioned before, like e-commerce, web portals, multi-page applications. Also, if you need a good SEO scoring, it's a good way, because there's also a big difference between those two. When Next.js is, if you use SSR or SSG, which is server-side rendering or server-side generation, you will have content with returned from server in HTML. So you will have all of the details that can be crawled very soon, and it's also faster, more optimized. And in React, it has to like load the JavaScript and then serve you the content. So it's like a little delay.
Okay. Yeah, I remember our first React applications, and they mainly were built in React.js because there was no Next.js yet. But for example, we had Django API or Ruby on Rails API. So backend was completely different technology, and we just were building front-end interface for application. In Next.js, nowadays we're building full stack applications. So we're also building backend connections and also backend APIs. So if you want to build API, maybe it doesn't need to be a separate application. For example, if you want to build in JavaScript, maybe it's easier just to put it in the Next.js application.
Yeah, I mean, you still need some service for a database, but you can do that with Next.js, because I mean, you can't connect directly to the database from your client, so from the React side, because it's insecure. You can't. I mean, you will be exposing some vulnerable details about your database, which shouldn't occur. And with Next.js, thanks to the API routes, or thanks to that you can run some logic on the server side, you can hide some details, so you can perform some operations in a database. I would recommend to do only simple ones. I wouldn't do any like complex calculations or something like that. I still think that you need a separate API for that, for performance and optimization mostly. Okay. But yeah, you can do the full stack applications with Next.js nowadays.
Yes, great. Of course, React also has the server-side components, right? But yeah, maybe it's a good time to go to our next topic about key differences and features. Yep. And I guess the first one would be this one, server-side rendering and full stack capabilities.
React itself provides you with the possibility to build SSR components, but you need to handle them by yourself. And you will need like a node server or something that will generate HTML for you based on your JSX components that you built in JavaScript. So you still need some external tools to be able to do a server-side rendering. By default, it's just using client-side rendering. So it's like loading JavaScript on the client side, and then it's performing the calculations and rendering the application. Next.js has support for SSR by default, and it's like doing all of those things in the background. You don't need to write any extra code to make it work. Other big difference is like routing system. In React, you can perform multi-page applications, but you need external libraries like React Router. React Router requires you to add extra code to make the navigation. And in Next.js, it's based on your directories. So it's how you structure your folders, etc. And it also allows you to perform more actions during the redirects, and also some that is different between those two. You have a possibility to write middlewares, which is like an action performed between all of your requests. So if any user requests to visit a site X, you can do something before, after, and return a different response based on that. With React, it's not possible. I mean, not in this level. Like, user won't be able to find out what's happening, because all of the React code is like, it's minified, but it's still put in the browser, right?
Yes. Can you provide some examples of those middlewares that you're using frequently?
The most common scenario is like authorization. So if user is not logged in, you just redirect him or her to a specific route. And based on like permissions, you can hide some specific areas of your application. Or the other one is with locales. If you have a multi-language application and user is from like specific locale, you can redirect him to correct one and serve with his language.
Cool. Yes, I think we're also touching part of some backend functionalities, or I don't know, maybe edge functions. So for example, maybe it's easier on Next.js to redirect user from specific country or serve different content than in React.js, because I guess in React.js the website, the code needs to be loaded in the browser, and based on the browser data we can do some actions. And for Next.js and some backend applications, maybe also thanks to using hosting infrastructures like Vercel, you can do those actions before serving any code, right?
In Next.js you have access to like a request, so you have all of the headers and cookies available for you. In React, you can read those values based on like JavaScript code, so they're limited.
Okay, cool. Any other key differences between those technologies?
Yeah, I would also point out the SEO capabilities. It's possible to do some SEO optimizations in React, but Next.js is doing it much better, mostly because of this rendering in HTML, so crawlers can read the page more accurate.
Okay. I
And
think
also more optimizations with like, for example, Next images. It's like a feature of Next, not React itself. So yeah.
If I'm going to build some internal application, I will just use React.js. But if I want to have better performance, maybe it's also good to consider Next.js, because if I want to display a lot of pictures on different devices, or I want to display other media files, then Next.js components for medias might be a good option, because they're doing on the fly some cropping, some sizings, and providing specific resolutions to specific screen dimensions, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Very good. Any other differences, or that's it for now?
If you want to host the Next.js application, it's a little bit more complex. With React, it's like static hosting. It's like a type of static hosting, because you don't need any server that will run in the background and perform operations based on user requests. And in Next.js, you need like a server to be able to run it. So
yes, I think in React.js you have more freedom, because you can use any hosting that you have. You also can use, for example, GitHub pages and just render the page. For Next.js, the preferred way is to use Vercel, so you have some limitations if you want to use different hosting providers, then maybe not all of the Next.js features are going to work. So there's more freedom in React.js, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely more freedom, but Next.js is not like you need to go for Vercel. You can host it in AWS or your own machine. You just need some more steps to go to make it work as good as on Vercel.
Okay. So maybe now we can discuss the part about developer experience. So it's more fun to write React code or Next.js code?
So when you're writing Next.js, you also need to write React.js because it's using it. So React.js is easier because it's only a part of UI and maybe some logic like toggling some things or connecting with API, etc. But it's less complex than Next.js because in Next.js you need to learn more features like how to use those optimizations, how to write good SEO, how to write routes, middlewares, API routes, and it's like because it provides you with more functionalities. It's just more complex, and its complexities keep growing, in my opinion. So instead of it's becoming the easier one, easier with time, it's just becoming more complex with time.
And why is becoming more complicated?
Because they are adding more features and they are like updating some of the old functionalities. Like the previous versions have one option to render your application. It was with the page router. Now they have a possibility to use app router or page router, and based on those two things, you need to write functionalities in different ways. So you need to be aware of a lot of things when you're writing the Next.js application now.
Okay. Cool. Anything else?
From the learning perspective, no, I think that's it. I mean, from the usage, in extra things that have impact on the developer experience is also like flexibility. So we already mentioned that before in our discussion, but yeah, you can use React with any other framework you want, and just like a UI part of your application. So it gives you more flexibility. With Next.js, you are like opinionated to use specific structures, specific flows, etc. Both of them are pretty easy to set up and work with, I think. So
yes. About the starters. I don't see much new starters for React.js because React.js is just a library, so you can use for bigger projects later. And for Next.js, I see starter for chatbot application, starter for e-commerce website. I guess several days ago, new SaaS starter was released, where you have the UI, database connection, integration with Stripe. So I see that in Next.js you have more almost ready to use project boilerplates that you can then customize and go live with the application. For React.js, I remember some starters like I don't know, but like login widget or something small.
I mean, for React, the starters were more related to like injecting the React router or any tools that can help you with creating your UI part. And with Next.js, the starters are more related to your application purpose. So like a e-commerce application, blog application, etc. So they're more oriented on what you are going to build.
Okay, great. You mentioned some things about developer experience, like flexibility, learning curve, and etc. So as I understand, React.js is easier to learn because it's just React, and Next.js is a bit more advanced because this is the React and also use cases of the React. So like use case on the front end, on the back end, and some business use cases. So the general conclusion would be that Next.js is harder to learn, right?
Yeah, much harder. I mean, you still need to learn React to be able to learn Next. So based on that, it's just more complex. You need the React, you need the server-side rendering, server-side generation, how to create routes, how to create API routes, how to work with middlewares. You are starting to learning more things about how browser like perform any actions on your requests and how they are like returned to your client. So it's like much more complexity. Yeah.
Yes.
And much more general knowledge about how browser is parsing the requests. So yeah.
Exactly. So knowledge about what happened when you type something in the URL bar.
Yeah.
So DNS connections, some handshakes, and all stuff like that.
Yeah, maybe not that early. I mean, if you are when you need to host your application, then this knowledge needs to be like gathered, like how the DNS works, etc. But in Next.js, you just need to know how it works when user enters the URL. You are getting the request to specific URL with specific parameters like headers, query strings, etc. And then you need to transform this request to specific page, for example, in your next application, and then return it in HTML, for example, or with specific chunks. So yeah, you need to learn a lot about this process.
Yes, I agree. So there's some confusion on the market that I see, that most of React developers say that they are also good Next.js developers. So because they know React.js, so they think that they can do anything. And then I see a lot of projects where, for example, there's wrong use of HTML tags. So you're writing the code that is not, accessible. It's bad for SEO. And for example, you have pages where we were discussing URL browser bar, but you think pages where the Slack is not easy to read, or you don't have title on the website. So you need to go out of just coding and more focus on user experience, and also how your code is going to be rendered, and how people are going to interact with it.
Yeah, I mean, during my recruitment meetings, I very often ask for some more knowledge about Next.js, and people are using Next.js for like, let's say, a year, and they are, in reality, they are just using the React part of Next.js. They are not using any functionality of Next.js, because when I ask them, for example, did you set up any routing on this project? And they say, no, it was already set up before by someone with more seniority. And when you ask questions like, what is the difference between SSG and SSR? They don't really know that, because they were using just the React part of the app. So yeah. It's like people are saying that they know Next.js because they were using it that in their project, but they weren't like trying to dig deeper to understand why something's happening in the background.
Yes. So we say that Next.js is easy to enter but hard to master, because you can easily enter if you just know React.js, but then if the application is big and you want to optimize core vitals, it's getting complicated, and those are the topics that are not really a matter for a React developer who is building internal application.
Yeah, I mean, the React developers are mostly, I mean, maybe not all of them, but most of them is like people who are building UI parts, and they're like connecting with APIs, interacting, but they are mostly presenting the UI layer, so something that user interacts with, but not what's happening before you can see those things on your browser, and how some background functionality works, like how if you're not logged in, you will be redirected to a specific page, but how it works underneath, yeah, it's not always a case for them. I mean, they were using that, but they are not a part of development of these sections.
Great. So I guess now we switched in natural way to some business implications like time to market. So we already covered that in Next.js you have some boilerplates that you can just use and customize and start the project. You also have some starters for React. How to decide which library or framework is going to help with time to market?
Basically, it's just you need to check your project requirement. If it's just a small application and you can go with React itself, and then find just some hosting that you can use to put your application on, or inject your application into a bigger application, then React is much faster because it's simpler and it's just a UI part. So if you only need UI part, it's a good way to go. If you need anything more complex and you don't have any background project already done yet, so you're starting from scratch, Next.js is a preferred solution almost any time. And in time to market, yeah, it's like hard to say which framework will be faster because Next.js is using React, etc. And it's mostly based on project complexity. They're both like they both have good velocity of development.
Okay, great. Any other business implications like maintaining the project or anything else?
I mean, the maintaining is as all of the previous sections is like harder because of more complexity in Next.js. So I would say that all of the things related to business will be a little bit harder in Next.js, but that's because if you need to use Next.js, your project is more complex than the one that you want to use with React itself. So yeah, the biggest difference in this will be like if you have more business requirements, the project will be more complex. You will probably use Next.js, and it will be harder to maintain in like long scenario. But it's not like harder because some things may not work, but because of the complexity of the Next.js. So if you will have to switch developers, they need to understand more infrastructure behind.
Okay, great. So yeah, let's conclude our discussion. So yeah, we covered what is Next.js, what is React, and how to pick between one of or another. But what will be the final headline, in your opinion, for this topic? Which one to use, React.js or Next.js? Just in 2 sentences.
If you have more complex application, just use Next.js and you will be able to handle it within one framework. If you have smaller apps, widgets, maybe internal applications or something like that, just use React and host it somewhere statically. It will be much easier and faster and cheaper. Great. Probably.
Great. So as you see, it's pretty tough question which one to use because each project is different, and yes, Each technology is a bit different use case. And you need to remember that the word is not ending on Next.js or React.js. You also can think about Astro, Remix, and many other frameworks. So yeah, if you have any questions, which technology to use, just visit our website and have a call with us. And we're happy to help you pick the best technology that will fit your needs. Okay, Jakub, thank you very much for today and see you next time.
Thank you, Chris. See you.
Bye-bye.